I guess it looks kind of small because they got a bigger screen. First of all, start a new layer and get out a pencil and fill in a shape. I think something like this would be alright. This is going to be the foreground area. Let me change my brush. See, the brush is showing these little jagged lines. So you bring it in closer. Oh, that's diameter. 129.30. Okay, go with the brush tip. The spacing here are just the lumps in it. So now it's smoother. Now let's see. Smoother. Then go back to brushes and put out the space so there's no space. See how it does. It's still like it. Anyway, most of the scenes and stuff they have like if you're doing hilly areas, you can go with a darker color. So I got the color and I'll make it darker. Nope, that's too blue. There it is. Okay. So you got hills. You got the foreground. And I can erase some of it if I don't want it. It probably don't matter that much because I want to have trees and other hills. This is more like a meadow, kind of low. And I go in between and pick up the color here. And then set the flow rate to a lower. Oop. Now that's underneath. And I go the other way then. That looks about right. So now I just fill in this. They have 3 layers of green. This would be like a near side hill. So it could be up above the other hills. Could follow a ridge. A little plateau, sort of. Okay, so now we have the foreground, midground, and background, and then farther back we have the sky. Let's see, I'll just fill it in with blue. Now I picked a softer brush tip. And since we want the sun to be in front, that means you can't put light behind it. I'll show you. I'll just do another layer and go with the lower flow. See, this shows the sun is in the foreground. But if you don't want the sun to be in the foreground, you want it to be on the other side, then it would have to be more like that. Because this side is where the sun is, that side is where the shade is. So that gives you sort of like the position of the sun, because it's more on the bright side. Then go with the mid color, soften it up, and say like it's getting darker back in the background from thunderstorms. Make it darker. And then maybe a little bit of black in a really low flow to get rid of some of the color, make it black. Looks like it's still too much color. Oh well, I'll just pick this up. Go with, change it to color. So now I can change the color. Get a smaller brush. Try to get this. So still showing blue. Now if we do clouds, we have to sort of like do a blurry version of it, of a cloud. And say add white, go with a little more flow. See, there's a cloud. It should probably be on top of everything, because some of the mountains could be hiding into the clouds. And since it's this side is the light side and the back side is the dark side, then we want to get a little bit black in there. So it's a little bit of black to go with the blue that's already in it. Add some blue to it. So I want this cloud to show rain. Then it's got to have sort of like a darker bottom on it and make it more defined so that it's more detailed. Now I just pick up some blue and blend it in with the black. And pick up the color that looks best and then raise this up. Forgot it's still on color. See, that's too much. Okay, go with a bigger brush. Want to get some lightness in the back. Oops. Get down here where this cloud is. Go with the lower flow. There. So now it's sort of showing the edges of the cloud. And then go across. Yeah, this needs to go on the cloud. There. So now we have the shadow of the cloud, the background. Want to get some shading going back to a dark area. And this mist needs to be dragged down to look like it's raining. Let's see, go with the smudge or blur. Let's see, smudge. Drag some rain down out of the clouds. Okay. Now we're back to the brush. And need to blend in some other colors into the clouds. More like part of the sky colors. And then hit places you want to have lumps in the clouds. Like this up here needs a shape like something. When I do this, you can looks like sort of like a blue going up over it, but the shading is the same all the way across. It just looks that way. So now we add details. So we go with a smaller brush. Add in more details. Just wiggle it around. Adding more highlights to it. And then do some bigger puffs. And smaller details. Go with the lower flow down here on the bottom. And some blue mixed in the same way. This probably don't look a whole lot like a cloud, but I sort of do my best. The one thing about a cloud is that it has different directions, and places like this shouldn't be in there like this line through there. It should be broken up a little more. And this right here should be broken up a little bit too, because it's too much in one spot. Then do the highlights. This is where the sun is hitting, so we go with a brighter color or I'm doing white. Now raise the flow up so it works better. So these are the highlights from the sun hitting the clouds. Go with some bigger areas across, patching, and then get some of this blend in. And then back to the smaller brush. More or less just keeping it from becoming lines. You don't want to show too many lines in there. You want to break it up a little bit. Just like little puffs. And this is the highlight, remember that, so that you only want it to be here. You don't want it to be down here in the shade or anything, because these are the highlights. The clouds that's hit in the sun, brighter in the sun. And if you don't want to be too much detail, like the too many small things, you add in a little bit of heavier brush or bigger brush to help blend things together. Now I go with a lower flow, and then like zigzag lines like this. Yeah, there's probably some in there. Those were like streaks in the clouds, but it's on a different plateau. Edit, undo brush, undo, back, 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 back. I guess I was getting a little bit carried away with that. It needs to be a lower flow where it's really light. Try one. See, these are on a higher plateau, like streaks in the clouds. Oops. Could go up a little bit right here on the top. Make it look like it's starting another cloud. And see this right here? This looks like it could be a wisp. So we try to accent that. Like right here, it's a little bit lighter. Try to highlight that. And then to smudge, you can do the current for like the air flow. This is pretty short. Let's see, adjustment. Strength is 14. Go with the soft brush. Make it smaller. There. Let's see. See, it drags it out. So on the edges of clouds, you can see where some of the air current is, and it just drag some out, but I'm pushing in because it's blurry on the edges. So I'm pushing pushing some of the clouds back. Like I can do like a smudge here, or increase a little bit more. So pull in there, like curl, and swip. See where it's dragging it to the side. And then I push it in. So now it's not as big. These are like streaming clouds. The clouds follow the wind, and we probably should not have that too much. So let's do a little bit of blur and blur some of that. Normal 100%. Is that blur? Yep, blur. Try a larger brush. There. Okay, so this is blurring a little bit. Add a little bit of blur there. And right here where you can see through the cloud, don't really want to see through the cloud if it's going to be in the mountains or covering the mountains. So I might want to trim some of this and make it darker in that area so you don't see through it. That's one of the things with the layers. They're transparent, so you have to fill in where you don't want it to show. And just use your eraser. Oops. Undo brush. Okay, so this is a little bit softer. And then go behind the cloud. Let's see, this layer is behind the cloud. And I go above that and start a new layer. And I fill this in with a gray. %35% or 100%. And I don't see that much filling in. Oh, there it is. And about that big. That's probably too strong. Go with 18. See? Looks like there's some blue there in the cloud. Let's see if it's in the cloud. Yep. That was in the cloud. So fill it in some more. Make it harder to see. And then do about the same thing as you do with the rest of the cloud. Except make some of this lighter. Oops. I see what the problem is. It's below the mountain. There. And we can add some shading to that patch. Light shading to show rain. Oops, that's a little bit too light. There's a little bit of blue right here. And more gray right here. I guess that's part of the cloud, so I have to do that to the cloud. Okay. So now we just hide this cloud, hide this part, and work on the mountain. So we put this, do this mountain, and you're going to have to sort of make little trees in the distance. They're like little patches. So I guess I need to get a darker color. Yeah. 7%. Okay. That'll be good. And then for now, let's lock the filter so that I'm only painting inside here. Oh, maybe not. Not locked. That's completely locked. Yep. Oh well. So that's what the problem is. Locked the wrong one. Okay. It's this one. And add a little bit of light to it so I can pick up a darker shade. See, with this side is still the sun side. So now we make the little trees. Had to do a little brush. This might be little enough. Just pick little patches. And add some patches of, maybe that's too dark. The overflow. Now just scribble a little bit. Scribble some of these colors around. You want to get this black in here. Need a lower flow. Yeah. a little bit. And if we have like a little cave in the hillside here, that could work, I guess. Of course, it'd have to be more detailed to make it work. These trees look like little bushes on the hills. Now I raise up the flow, add something more like this color. Go with a bigger brush. And they're usually different shades of trees. So add in some other colors or other shades of green. And even some yellowish colors. And some fluorescent green lip colors. Then when it gets down here, it gets more into the darker colors. Then we reduce the brush size and try to define them. Like here's a, oh, need the lower flow. Need a bigger brush. We haven't tried to get that detailed yet. So we fill in, no, more flow. Help shape these like in the trees. This is little patches of little bushes. Add some browns in there. Probably too much of a flow for the brown. Break up some of these lines. It's different shades. And then maybe some shadow. Like here's would be a shadow. You make the, and this would be a shadow. And have a shadow here. More of a highlight through here. Maybe not that much of a flow. Go with the lower flow. Most of the valleys have, the mountains have valleys and stuff, like say that this right here is a mountain, and some of the valleys running down through it will show up in there, and they even have like dips and stuff in it. And have plateaus. There's flatland parts and darker areas where it's sunk in more, or sort of like a hill hump that comes in. And on the rims of the mountains, where the sun is hitting, you could have patches of light colors coming down. Like this would be say this is a edge of a valley. This is where the sun is hitting the trees, and this is in an angle where it's not. So the sun is not in the right angle to get that, but it can hit these trees up here showing it, the rim. That's basically what I'm doing here. So probably should be on it. That's more or less like a rough thing of the, but we can make some different changes to it. But we want to keep about the same thing over here on this other side. So I go back, use smaller brush, lighter colors, random colors. See, I'm on this, but the flow is a little bit too low. We add some yellows to it. And some dark patches. And maybe some light patches. The darks would be underneath the trees. So you can see that it's like if you want to have a tree here, like this could be a tree. You have the sides of the tree, and you have the little area underneath the tree until another branch or tree comes in there. And it might have a dark base. See, so you can have like little drawings of little tiny trees in there. This is in a distance, so it more or less just needs the trees to be the more like different shades, because not all the trees are going to be the same. But I'm not going to get too much into detail. Just get the basic start, or sort of. So when you have trees of different colors, you have highlights from all the trees. Let's get this a little bit stronger than one. The highlights from the trees. trees of different colors. I have some blue-green type tree areas. And up here on top, it'd be the most because it blends in with the sky. And then we take part of the sky color and blend it in there. Add it. I think I'll get the flow a little bit more on that. A little bit more than 10. There. So now we have like trees at the top, not a smooth line. And if you zoom in, you can do better. This is probably better for most people because I don't know if you can do this without being close up and have more detailed in the trees. See, now that looked a little more like a mountain. Now we do the same thing on the other side. I'll just do the blue edges of the trees. So these are treetops with the sky shining through the branches. So they're not going to be completely transparent. Now I can add some colors in, and this would probably be a lower flow. That was probably too much of a flow, so I think I can smudge it in there. That gives it a blurrier look. And lower flow. Nope, that was not the lower flow. That was lower size, smaller size. Step back. Okay. Okay, here would be like trees sticking up in the background. And trees along the base. That one was too bright. There. And that's a little bit too bright. Then we get a lighter color. Let's go with a bluish color. And then a light yellow, since the flow does make the flow go down more. So this will be the highlights of some of the trees. It looks more like a yellow. Add a little bit of brown in there for some tree bark and stuff. And add some shading for underneath the trees. There. So now we have like this is the background. Now we're doing the one in front. Then we have to use the eraser to show where the trees aren't, since we're not doing the sky. Let's see, there's my blue, and it only works good with the when the sky is that color, which it will stay that color. And let's see what it looks like this. See, we might need to trim and that and that. So now I'll just go back over with the eraser. Since I have all that, I can see where I need to trim. And that flow is a little bit too high, and that's a little bit too low. Try 37. Okay. Try to make it look blurry, so I needed a bigger brush. Ooh, that looks dark under there. Unlock that. That's probably the problem. Need to be unlocked. Now it looks like we have a mountain. And probably didn't need that to be a point. But it's okay. I can pull the cloud back with a smudge tool. Or, yeah, smudge tool. Let's use a bigger brush. Pull it back. There. Now it's not so pointed. Probably should break it up in this little area here, because it's be curving around or fading out, which I can probably do the fading out part with the brush. The lower flow. If you want bigger wisp of bigger chunks of this clouds, you can put in some. You can also do it on another layer to make sure it looks good before you merge it down. So like if I want to go with the big brush to make bigger lumps of clouds, bigger lumps, need more 2%, 25. See, bigger. And do. make this middle part the brightest part. Go back to some details. Oh well. So let's get this done. It's basically the same thing. We want to, now let's lock the layer. So now we do some shading, low shading, create like a texture, just scribbling around. See where I'm trying to make it darker in some areas? That's to highlight some of these areas I'm working on. Since I've made this like that. And then lower the flow a little bit more where the lighter areas are. Now we just shade over that. Now this mountain is a little bit, should be a little bit lighter because it's closer. So we go with this. And lighten it up. This way it doesn't mix in with the mountain in the back. Mountain in the back should be darker. So now we just throw in some darker green, I guess. If this is, see if this is darker. That's 2%. Can't see it. The brush might need to be smaller. So I'll go back with the black again. Lower flow. So if you want to show rocks on there, you have to draw the rocks. You probably already know that though. So now I'm mixing in some greens. Let's say that this part right here is like a field. It's already had goats or something up on the hill. And they mauled the grass. So it'll be smoother up there. And then there would be highlights in the grass from the sun. And it'd be kind of too small to see anything, any details. But we can give it some, just have the colors closer together. and see if I can add some brightness at a lower flow. I still want it to be green, not white looking. And a little more flow. So now we have this part right here, which could be a rock. So I guess we'll have to start drawing the rock if we want a rock there, but I'm going to put one right there. So blurry idea of a rock. And then this right here would be a rock. And this right here would be less green. And this right here would be a rock. And this is a separate rock. So we want some shadows in there. I didn't pick the right one. There. Shadows in there. And a few more rocks in there. Then we add some more detail using a smaller brush. Thought I picked the right color. Then I put some shadows in there, but lower flow shadows. So it's more like a rock instead of these bright colors. And some grays. And I guess it doesn't hurt to throw in a little bit of orange in there, since it's closer to the color. Get some rubble on the ground there. Now I want some highlights for the rocks. Looks like I need to put some shadows back in there. Okay, now I'm going to try to zoom in to where this part is seen clearer. Then if I want the grass to come out on the rock, then I have to paint it on it so it's more detailed. See, more flow, smaller brush. Nope, that's not green. And where I want the rocks to show up in the sunlight, I want to make it bolder there. So now I want to make something look like trees, I guess. So let's get in some trees here. This is just throwing in ideas that I'm thinking of to help me look like trees. Is this right here would be where that goes under the trees for the shadows. So I need that. Need the green for the trees. I guess I could go with lower flow. Nope. Go with a bigger brush so I get more covered. So right now I don't really know how this is going to look. But let's see, I can imagine right here could be a great big tree. This, let's say that this is the tree stump, the base of the tree. And this is the shadow under the tree, like the shade. And then there's shade from the branches. Then you have a highlight right here. And more puffiness through here. And I want maybe this part be another tree or bush, like undergrowth or something. And this could be a tree. And it'd have highlights, but I guess we can do like a different shade of highlights to separate the trees. Make it more of a, take the colors away. Let's be a little bit colorful for a tree. So let's add some brown. Let's say if I wanted to do like a fir tree, it'd be like this, you'd swoop, all the branches would be swooped. So had to be like swoop, 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 swoop up the tree. And then have shadows in between the branches, or there's partly in the clouds, or it'd be shadows. Let's get this rough area in the background. Have some darker greens in there and some lighter blues a little bit. Undo that. The blues don't look that good, not that bright. So that is bluish green to here. And this tree is a smaller brush. This swoops, and then this clump of low grass or low stuff swoops, and through the middle you want to see the tree. And get some green in there. It needs to be like a dark green, like this shade of green. And the only highlights would be small amounts. Let's get this shadow in here real dark. And let's see, make the highlights on the tree. I guess they'd be about this color. Make a shadow under this branch that's sticking out. Kind of hard to tell what this is. Too light. And lower the flow. Then go around some of the trees to separate them. This flow is pretty low. Let's add to the rocks a little bit. This would probably be better with a darker shade here. So like the sun's not exactly in this area. This is like a shadow area. And it gets into a dark crevice in here. And then this one piece right here is sticking out. A lot of rocks are in an angle like this. Let's add some grass in there, but it needs to be dark. For like moss and stuff. Okay, now you see what it looks like up close. So this double click on this zoom, that's 100%. So that's the way people see it. And the rocks could be changed colors and stuff, like, and add more shading to it, like more darkness through here. Use lighter colors. Go with the color and try to gray some of this out. Lose some of the color. Let's see, we can spread mold on it. This green was spread mold on the rocks. Okay, so that's more like little trees there, but on the mountain it don't look all that great. Let's retrim the mountain. Let's unlock this and use the eraser. Go with a smaller flow and make 17. There we erase patches through there. So we can practically do that now. Just all the erasing that we need to do. And go up a little bit more. And this would be probably like a low flow through here, since it's a field. Make it smoother and add trees. And since it's closer, it needs to be bigger blur. I use a bigger brush to blur it. And don't like that. Lost top of my tree right there. And now these are like bigger bushes, bigger trees. Let's get a flow. This is color, normal. See, I'm sort of making it more lumpy. So you want it to see lumps in it, like patches of lumps to show treetops. And then I remove that. Yep. And I'll lock it again. So now we just add some highlights in there. Some trees that have brighter colors. Let's do big patches. Like tree here, tree here, tree here, just throwing around. Tree here, tree here, tree here, and pale tree here, there. And some green. Go up higher on that because you don't see much of that. Now I'm starting to see that the shading is going out for the gaps in there, so they're less like trees. You can go smaller and go lower to add more details in it, like smaller scribbles. And make the shadow areas more shadowed. Run a few brush strokes over the light areas to blend them in and make them more lumped up inside. See, going fill in the shade like that. There's shade, and follow up these shades. Get these trees back into where they're just trees. There's a tree, like that's a tree. And I made that a tree. And this is probably just a shadow area. And probably want some highlight in that area so that there'd be a tree there. And a tree there. And so it's not a tree in that kind of shape. So it needs to be broke up. And this tree right here needs to come down farther because it's not like a TP. And add some browns in there. Some darker browns. And let's do one side where it was sort of like a brown area. Because a lot of these things go brown because some areas aren't getting water. So we add a little brown into it. And a lot of grass is not really grass without browns and grays. So you go with a smaller brush. See, add in that look that's not really stays green. Then the shadows. and then some tree shapes around that area. Okay. So these are only under the trees. So the trees had to go above that. So we draw the higher flow. Try to make trees shapes up here. And then pick up some colors, throw in there. And go smaller. Add some highlights. Yep, that's a little bit too much. Let's use a brush that I don't have to mess with too much. This like speckled brush here. And that's too much. Go with the lower flow. And smaller brush. Don't think this speckle brush looks a lot like leaves anyway. There's one here that looks like it can handle it sort of. Let's see what it looks like with some blacks in there. See, probably better off just working with the other brush. Here's something that's like clumps, like tree clumps. But it's a repeated pattern, so it can't look all that great. So, nope, don't want a hard brush. There. Scribble something in there. Oops. Yes. Undo twice. Scribble in some shadows, lower the flow. Get a bigger brush. So this would be too big for a tree anyway. It needs to be smaller since it's far away. And be a different tree down here. So now that we have a bunch of trees, just need highlights. And highlights are probably better off just doing lightly, and that way you don't just keep scribbling and stop every once in a while. You have like branches. That's not always the same thing, because you got different shades. You got highlights, shadows, and midtones. And it looks like that color isn't covering in very good without blacks mixed with it. Has to be like drastic changes. Try different speckle brushes. And there's leaves. I guess I need to raise the flow if I want to just do a tap these in here. So, see that brush there? That's the brush I have. There's another lighter one. There's darker ones. See. You don't want to get too much repetition in there. And then keep these separate. Up here next to the top, you want heavy grass, light grass. You do spots like this. And then use this smudge blur tool. Blur it in a little bit. Lose some of the detail. Okay, so now we got like highlights. Let's get some more of this. There, let's get more dark areas. And that strength is 100. Is that right? Oh, that's blur. Pick up that dark color. Too bad these aren't round. Then they'd be more like lumps, like what we need. Let's rotate the brush. Let's see, spacing, rotation. See, that's upward more. That's upward more like a tree. Now let's make it bigger. Looks kind of like the tree is leaning a little bit. The brush. Go back a little bit. Let's add some yellows in there. Go with a lower flow. Oh, that's patchy enough. Make it smaller for some of these. Right there. Oh, that was wrong. I click on the colors and they don't always work. Change. There, and black. There's a bunch of clicking. This over here has got areas too dark in it. That's a little bit too dark there. Now, I guess we get, that's the green. Doing a little bit of scribbling with it. Dabbing, but moving a little bit to get these wider trees in there. And go with a bluer color. And add some dark sort of areas with the, not black, but to add some browns. Let's do this shade of brown. And this area right here looks like the shadow is wrong. So I think I'll pick up this color here and use it around this tree. There, go up like this. There. Some smaller highlights. Now we have look like trees, sort of. Try to make them look separate. Like this gob right here, don't see any tree in there. It's just a mess. Then pick up some color that can blend in with it better. Okay. So now we have the grass part. This part probably make kind of easy. I'll turn that filter off. This is the foreground, see? We can make the foreground raise up higher if we want to. So we have more of it. There. So now select this area, or we can mask it off. See? Oh yeah, this right here, probably should do something with it since it's blurry. Anyway, start with the grass. See, I don't know if this would be very good for tool for grass. Let's see what else we can pick. Maybe a 5. Well, then we can start with a heavy flow. Let's do heavy flow. And then the brush, we want to fade it. See, smooth brush, airbrush, noise, brush tip shape, texture, dual color, and this jitter size. Let's see what, see, that doesn't do anything. Okay, control, pen pressure. Well, actually, this could work. Depends on what we're doing with it. See, down here, you can see what's happening here. So we don't want that. And this doesn't change anything. Try to fade. And we go fade like that. Make it, see if I can get the size. Roundness. Let's see, maximum roundness. That diameter, that's jitter in the shade. So now I'll go with 155. That could be like a grass blade. Let's see, 1%, 0%. Nah, I can't go with that. The diameter, see, that's fades it to a smaller line, but doesn't fade out. That fades out a little better. So I guess 145. Closer. Let's do that. Okay. This. So now we change the brush. See if we can get something bigger. Yep. Fill in. So now we want a shadow area. Let's see, like that would be a good shadow area. Of course, we still have it fading, so I have to keep doing this. This brush tip fade, change it to pin pressure because we won't be using that. Then we'll just do this and turn this thing off. And let's adjust the spacing. And go with 100%. So now we can go with a softer brush. Add it. Turn this back on. Let it fade out a little bit. Okay. Get a big brush. Pick up this color. There. This is like shade area, not shade area, shade area. There's like if there was trees behind you, this would leave a shade area. And direct sunlight would be a lot brighter than that. So now we'll just make some grass blades. Get a size big enough for grass blades. Like that. That'd be alright. And need a different type of brush. So that'd be a 9. And then brush. Shake. Pin pressure, fade. 145. Okay, let's try it out. Ooh. Don't want to grab the bottom. Guess I can zoom out a little bit. This is just some of the mid-tone colors anyway. And just more or less playing with it. Then I do some of this and gotta do a lower flow. Because it's going to be like shading. And then you have to have some browns with it, sort of a gray brown, or some grass that isn't green anymore. Of course, this is not close to that color. Eh. Now I want to get with something smaller, because the farther away it gets, it needs to get smaller, which we should be overlapping that bigger stuff over top of the smaller stuff in the background. So let's go with the 105 and change the brush size to 6. Turn the filter off. Okay, now it's not locked, so now the grass can go over everything. There's one way I can do it, is like Speckle Brush, but it's more or less for background. It's not really that much for anything else. Let's see if this is darker. Nope, not darker. Oh, this would be darker. Okay, here's what a Speckle Brush does, and I'll just do it in this area here. I just go here, make that size, and do image, or wait a minute, the brushes are here. Okay, brush mode, dissolve, and I just sprinkle black through here and add some highlight greens and regular greens and darker greens. Apparently I can't see the darker greens. And then you use the smudge tool. Let's see, that's blur, smudge. See, it makes sort of like grass. And strength, go down. This is what I did with the porcupine. Something with a bunch of stiff hair, like a raccoon. And if you want to add more darker colors in it, just splatter in more blacks and stuff. And smudge it in. Of course, it's always going to be blurry. You won't be able to not make it blurry. Let's put some highlights in it with the lighter colors up here so they blend in and go up. And we want some blacks in there, a little bit. Go back over with some lighter colors. And I'll pull it down because it's up over that. And pull it down. That pulls the ground down too. There's a lump there in the ground, and there's a lump there in the ground. So making it all blurry isn't all that great. So it's a little bit better to go without it. Go with normal and small brush strokes. It's just more or less for background like that. And go smaller. About 4. Let's try 4. And we go with a heavier brush stroke so we can see the blades of grass. I'm going to add some dark colors in there for shadows. Might be able to smudge some of them just a little bit. So now I want, let's see, go with a speckle brush. It probably keep doing the same thing. Go with bigger brush, bigger than that. Okay, let's see what this looks like. This is the smudge tool. Oh, grabbed all the bottom again. That I don't want to see. That was edge. Now, brush. Try the same thing. Yeah, like 59 there. And that's good flow. Go with this bigger size brush. And go with some of these greens here. Oh, that don't look very good. It's always good to experiment. You can always see what works and what don't. There's one that's got a few in it. And see what it looks like with the brush size. Nah, don't think so. Of course, we could change it with other things besides that. See, go step back, and brushes, and then turn dynamic shape on, and that'll go with what we've had. Whoop. Well, that looks interesting. It's just not what we want. See. So now we want highlights. As this is the grass, and some of the grass is in the sun. So we need to make it look brighter. Let's see if we can make it look brighter. Probably better off just doing the speckle part. Got that. That's a lot of streaks for brushes. Ooh. Brushes. Fade. 125. Nah, it's a little bit too long. Try 75. Lower the flow. You have to do a lot of these. And you have to start at the bottom and push your way up. That way you're going the length of the grass blade. See, this whole area right here needs to be light all the way. This, all of this, all of this. This is the part that's in the sun. And a little bit of this over here. Then we can do like a fog. Because all this in the distance will have fog. And then smudge a little bit. Oh, strength might be a little bit too much. The size might be a little bit too big. Then let's go with this light color. Is blurry, like 21. Go up bigger, a little bit bigger. Now this part, we're just going to add highlights to it. This probably should never be changed. Okay, now we get highlights. Add this brighter green to it. And this light green. So we're just more or less coloring it. Then we gotta remove these tips. So we go small. Oh yeah, well, we'll need this, then it's small. not that small. Some we can see, like that right there. Need the strength to go up a little bit. I think I could use more strength. This is where the grass in the front goes over. I'm just sort of blending it in, so if I miss anything, not go over it, then it'll be blended in. There's one there, and some stranglers there. Now we go with the dark grass. Need a better flow. Yeah, that didn't fade. I guess we can blend it in there. Okay, now I guess we change his brush tip. Not that big, about that. And then change the brushes and use the brush tip shape. Nope, not the brush tip shape. Fade. And 65. There he goes. So you can see these little lines in there is like the shadows for the bright grass. This is shadows for bright grass. Getting tongue-tied. Okay, then I add some shadows in here. Probably shouldn't be that dark. And I guess I'll smudge them in and go with a lower flow. Probably go with a bigger brush. Let's see if I can just blend some of them in. I don't think it's that easy to go one direction with the brush. Just keep going back and up. Nah. Start at the bottom and push your way up. That's a little bit tough. And you smudge bigger. Brown grass. Maybe that's how I get rid of some of these black lines in here. I'll just use brown in there. And get some dark gray. and smudge. Yeah. So some of the grass that you see, they have like little seeds on top. See if we can do some of that. Try this brush, see what it does. Yeah. Need something narrower like that other thing we were using. Like this. Then we rotate the brush to go upward. So we change the brush tip. It goes upward. Then we make smaller ones. And do like little patches. Oh, don't work out good just pushing on them. See if that's the right color. Nope. It looks like the right color. Just need to fade. Okay, try it. Guess we could put some in there as different direction. Change the direction a little bit. Go that way. And go that way. Make some bigger ones for in front. Closer to the front. And make it 3 and brush rotate it that way. And when the wind blows, it kind of brushes the grass one way or the other. Let's see, like, I know that wouldn't work. So if you want to go all in one direction, it's all right, because you can say the wind is blowing that way. This little patch of bare grass looks a little bit rough. And let's see, we can probably put something up there. Let's see, right here. I'm going to turn this. Like that. Try and get rid of that black line around there. Try to blend it in. There. And add some highlights in there. And some shadows. There, that should look a little better. Except we need shading for these trees here. And let's put in some highlights here. Okay, now we're going to try to separate these. As these are different layers, we want to separate them. So right here we need to add a layer and change the brush tip to the soft brush. Use a little bit larger because we're going to put in some shading right down here. And try to add some highlight to this. And see what this looks like. Okay. And fog usually makes everything pale. But it's blends in with the sky. So it has to be like a sky blue or something to blend in with the sky. Then we got to see if we can soften this. Linear light. Nope. Overlay. That don't look like it does anything. Vivid light. Nope. Let's see. Luminescence. Nope. Normal. Yeah, let's just go with that. I had to use the eraser. So it's not too heavy. You don't want it to be too obvious that there's fog. And that could be faded a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. Gotta get this a lower flow. So don't erase it all. And switch this with the brush and brush in dark areas. And this area over here is going to be like distant stuff. So it's on this layer here. And it'll be a blue going into the clouds. Of course, we need to make this area over here brighter, darker. So we add a little bit of darkness to that area to help divide it so you can see it. So now you can see that. Actually, that should be faded a little bit more. Step back, step back, step back. And this part needs to be a little bit darker because all this in the background is supposed to be dark. Wait a minute, undo brush. Yep, I'm back there in the back. Okay, so we want some blue for the sky in there and darkness for the clouds over. So it's sort of like not there at all. Edit, undo, a little bit too much. And then back here in the back needs to be darker right in here. And then in a way you have mountains in the back. So make it look sort of like the mountains go up into the clouds. Let's go with the solid brush. They usually have like purple mountains majesty. Well, that's sort of like leave this purple to cover some of the fog. And lighter areas for the sunset. And brighter areas for the sky. Still have it on really low flow. Okay. I'll fix that. Then go back to the low flow. Okay, here's the hazy mountain streaks. Yep. Then they have the darker areas in the bottom. Get darker. Guess I'll have to trim this one right here. Eraser. That's a little bit too small. Okay, that's all right. Oops, edit, undo, not trimming the right thing. So I guess I'll have to fill in this area here with darker colors. Get a softer brush. And then up on this one, need to go up a little bit and add in more shadows, since one heel is a shadow of another, and that heel, a little bit of a shadow here. Probably make the mountain shape like this for a shadow, because we got this dip here, but it could be a hump behind us. So that's sort of like something. Then you can add all kinds of stuff. Like if you want to do fence post, add fence post in. Let's start at another layer. Get up here on top. See, that's top. Okay. So this is just to throw in there for an idea. Get with the hard edge brush, because you gotta fill in so that you won't see through it, because you don't want to see through the fence post. Let's see, this size fence post would be all right. Nah, I think I want some smaller and go in the back here. So want the size for that. Then we have like a brownish gray right there, so we can fill it in with a brownish gray and go behind this grass. See this grass right here. Start a new layer, and we come up with the fence post. I hold shift down so then the line goes straight. Oop, need to fill in that 100%. Okay, there was a fence post. Fence post. Fence post. Oops. That was the dot to dot with the shift button. Fence post. Fence post. Fence post. Then do a fence there like that. Make this go down farther. Make sure that one's down at the bottom. This is just click and hold shift and click on the second line, second dot. Click here, hold shift, click here. Click here, hold shift, click here. So now we got the fence. So now we can trim it. Get a bigger brush. There. No, that's not. Let's see. big brush, bigger brush, and 100%. So trim this off right there. And right there. Right there. And there. Okay, that's sort of like what we want. Probably want to round off the tips a little bit. Edit, undo. And see if I get closer I can see better. Okay, trim there. 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 Take the corners off a little bit. I think I'll take this down a little bit. That's the last one. So now we have this. We can lock it. So now we can color it whatever colors we want. Use a soft brush. Have to do like shadows and highlights on it. So if we're going to do the post, need the post to have sides, shaded sides. So we'll lower the flow. See how this goes. Just going down. Right beside it. On each one we'll do that. That gives the post a little bit of roundness. Then I guess if that's the highlight color, we need shadows to go with it. Just a little bit darker wood, or for wood. And we don't have to worry about this being the wrong color. It's like that's not even in there. It's not. There it is. Eh. Could put a few knots in here too. Looks like that we can trim some of this grass that's spread out. So let's make some knots. Let's go with smaller, let's see, a little bit more, like 11. And go smaller with the brush for streaks. The wood grain. I guess this dark color is not what we were using. I go up to 6, put a knot there, and a knot there. Then go smaller. And then pick up this color and blend this in right here because this wasn't really a knot. Well, since I'm picking up colors from the grass, it don't help. Make a small knot. There. Okay. That's some of the knots in it. Put a knot there. Nothing there. At least not much. Pick up this color up here out of the colors so it don't mix with the green. Not there. This looks like a good place for a knot, and this and that. Except that was messed up. Let's see if I can get rid of it. There we go. Okay, now all the boards are knotted, so they're just most of them. Shows a rough wood. Now we can I guess is like gray highlights. And dark areas for the tops of the post. And from where the weather is hitting the tops of the post, making them dark. And some gray. And go with this so we can just add it in like an extra color. Fade everything out. Then we can make the bottom of them darker. Now I go back over it and add some highlights to the post. That's too big for the post. Now we go with this. Probably too much. Step back. Step back. Step back. Just a touch here and about halfway down. Touch halfway down. See how that looks. It looks kind of like you might need a darker color down here. There. Like a duller color. Go back over it with a darker color again, because I think it could be darker. And darker. Okay, we have fence posts. And probably need to make them a little bit blurry because they're not supposed to be in focus right there. So filter and blur, blur more again. And that looks kind of about right. Could have a red fence, brown fence, but I think that brown is not gray enough. So image, adjust, using saturations. Let's saturate it. Yeah. Apparently it just looks kind of like too blue. Just do color adjustments. Image, adjust color balance. Shadows, a little more yellow. And lower the red. And that's a little bit too much green. So let's do highlights, a little more red. Nope, not red. I know we don't want the blue. Image, adjust brightness and contrast. Make it darker with bright highlights. It looks too pale. Well, some of the posts aren't that much. This one could be a little bit less pale. Undo. Too much flow. There. That looks about right. Still not gray enough, but gray will make it look blue. And since it's under a blue sky, it's going to have some blue in it. So adjust, color balance, brightness, blue. Just using saturation, less saturated. Probably wouldn't hurt to have some mold on the fence. Put some green in there. Maybe darker where it's green. That one spot right there looks a little bit too dark. I more or less just self-adjust. Okay, we have fence, we have field, we have grass. Probably should have grass farther back. Anyway, we could do something like a barn. See, where's this one right here? We can put a house there or anything we want. The more we add to it, the better it will look. So go here, there, start a new layer. Say this would be a house. It'd be on the hill. Then it'd be kind of hard to drive up, or be like a log cabin or something. So if it's a log cabin, then we would need a different color. Okay, is that big enough for the house? Looks like that could be a pretty big house. Then we need a roof on it. Go like this. Then we can trim it. Well, that's not the color I'm supposed to be picking up. Wrong button. Then lower the flow. Go with 1 pixel. Since 1 pixel, it needs to be heavier flow rate to make any signs of it. That was a little bit too much of a slope. Looks about right. Hit it, undo. Then I put a window. Actually, that could be kind of big for a window. Cancel that. Have more than one window. Eh. Lower the flow. Put some tin on the roof. So now we just need a chimney. Could be a stone chimney. So now I just need lines. Now let's see if this looks right at a distance. Yeah, it looks alright. So we can add all kinds of stuff. Even, well, draw a lake over there. But this house is not in the rain. Could be in the shade from the rain. So block out some of the light from that. Edit, undo brush. Lock that. And then have some sunlight come in. Oops. That's a little bit high for flow. There. So now we have a small picture. Guess we could make some rain. Do a top layer. And get a bigger brush. And then use Brush mode, speckle or dissolve. Low flow rate. 1. Oops, that's black. Don't want black rain. Want white. Then we can, I guess we can do edit, fade brush tool. I didn't fade it. So we do a layer and change the opacity a little bit lighter. Then we use filter, blur, motion blur, make it go down. There we have some rain. Then we need some bigger rain. So go another layer. Go with the bigger brush. There. Free transform. Make this bigger. To make bigger rain. Zoom out so I can see where it's at. Oh, I have to apply it first. Okay. Now big rain. Filter, motion blur. I think that motion blur could be more blurrier or longer. Undo motion blur, blur, motion blur, distance, there. Then we can fade some of it where it don't need to be. And so the distant rain, we'll fade that, erase it from up here. And then not so much through here. And then this rain, we can kind of fade it through here. That was too much. Undo. There. So now we have rain. Could be snow if I wanted it. And this cloud will have to be darker because the rain is shadowing the cloud. So let's see. Add some gray. On top. Actually, it'd be blow the rain. Get a bigger brush. Oops, don't want that. Normal. There, so now it's a little bit darker. And if we want to lighten up the rain, let's see, what's this? I was supposed to be putting that on that. 15, that's the rain. Yeah, go down below that. Okay, that's that rain. And we can adjust it. Rain. So now we can see some rain. You can see it's raining. I guess if we want to really do it, we can make droplets, big droplets.